Welcome to Real Life with Jenny. My name's Jenny Senaparatna. Grab your favorite drink, get yourself a snack, and we will get started. Today I have toasted coconut almond bark tea. This is so yummy. If you've never tried it, you need to try it. It is just delicious. And I have the pastel M&Ms, peanut and regular M&Ms, but almost all the peanuts are gone because that's what I love. So let's get real. I want to continue to talk about my time in Spain because I learned so much about Spain, about myself, about God. Like, it was one of those trips that I think I will take with me for the rest of my life. Now, I think anytime you leave your comfort zone, God can teach you, right? Like, anytime you're willing to leave your comfort zone, it can be a place of great learning. And so I encourage you, first of all, leave your comfort zone. Just maybe just for a little bit. Maybe you don't need to go to Spain. I would definitely not encourage you to go to Morocco by yourself, but it is okay to leave your comfort zone just a little bit because that is where God shows up and teaches and you can learn. That is just a freebie. That was not something I was thinking about talking about, but I want to talk about a couple things that I saw in Spain that all kind of lead into one thing. So the first thing that I saw that was super interesting to me was the people that cleaned. Now, Spain was one of the safest and cleanest places I've ever been. It was, the amount of people that live in these cities and the little amount of trash was just like mind-blowing to me. I live in the suburbs in Minnesota, and I feel like there's trash in my yard every day and it has nothing to do with me. Like, it was just incredible to me how clean it was. So one morning we're sitting at this cafe. And I know that sounds so cool. It really was. It was really cool. And we got like this lobster tail that was like all folded phyllo dough, I believe. And then inside had some cream. It was good. I had myself a cup of tea. It was a good morning. And we're sitting there. We've got all our luggage because we're moving from place to place, right? This is what we're doing every morning, moving from place to place. And we're sitting at this place. And for some reason, Kevin left me. I don't know where he went. I don't know what he was doing. I think I did at the time, but I don't remember. He leaves. He is like, I'm good. Like, he didn't get himself a cup of tea. He'd already eaten his half of the little pastry, and I'm still kind of nibbling on mine because I'm a little bit slower than he is, and I like to enjoy what's happening in life. And so I'm sitting there and I'm looking out on the streets of Spain. This is in Madrid. And this wasn't the first time that I saw this, but it was something that I was like, oh, wow, this is super interesting. And it was a lady who was on her hands and knees washing the baseboards of the building on the outside, like washing the baseboards and polishing the brass on the door on the bottom, like that little kick part that people kick to get inside. And she's polishing all of that. She's washing all the baseboards of the outside of the building. She's scrubbing with a little brush in between all the cobblestones. I was like, that is why it's so clean. Because everyone's taking care of their area. And not just like, oh, I'm going to see how it looks, like taking care of it and washing it. And I saw that several different times where people were outside with these little brushes cleaning up the cobblestone in front of their area out to a certain point. And I was blown away. I was like, that is really taking care of something that you've been given in such a beautiful way. And so often we just don't. We take for granted sometimes. When was the last time I washed my baseboards in my house? We're not going to talk about that. Because I couldn't tell you. Just the pride in keeping things clean was just incredible to me. The second thing that blew me away was the cathedrals. For real. The cathedrals that we went into, I think we went into about 4 or 5 different cathedrals. We were going to go into another one, and it was 20 euro, and I was like, I'm good. Like, I think that's a little bit above my price range. I don't like to spend money. And so I was like, I'm good. I don't need to see another cathedral. So we skipped that one. But the cathedrals were, like the outside were beautiful sculptures and architecture like that. It just kind of blow you away. And then you walk in. And I think for me, the hard part is I was not raised Catholic. And so I don't understand saints. They don't make much sense to me. I don't really understand what they do, or it's just something I don't get. But they're really dark. Every cathedral we went into were like, not like dark, like, in spiritual ways, like they were dark, like no light. And I was like, we should have a little bit of light in this church, like put up the lights, people. And that everywhere you sit is super uncomfortable. So in the US, it's completely opposite. It is over bright, and you're like, turn down, like we could be a little bit darker here. But they're really bright, and we have really comfortable places to sit. And so that was kind of a like, oh, well, that's unique, and but just gorgeous. Like the amount of brass and gold and silver and pipe organs, and the saints areas were just, beautifully decorated. I did not know who all the saints were. I don't think anybody probably does, because there's so many of them. And I can't speak Spanish or read Spanish, so, probably should have done a little bit more research before I went, but that's okay. And so I just kind of enjoyed watching and looking, and I found a deep sadness inside of the cathedrals. Not just from like the pews that are very, very uncomfortable, and the wooden kneelers that I'm like, my 49-year-old knees cannot get on those kneelers. That is not a good plan. Because then Jenny's stuck in this church for a really long time. Not just that, but the sadness that was just with the people in the church, in the cathedral. There was just a sense of almost despair. There was one lady in front of a saint, lighting a candle and giving a donation. And I believe that the saint was for infertility. And she had tears streaming down her face. And it was just a place of brokenness, not a place of healing. It was a place of brokenness. And that just kind of broke my heart. It was just not a place of joy. And I know that the Bible says to mourn with those who mourn and weep with those who weep, but it also says to rejoice with those who rejoice. And I'm not that good at that. To be honest with you, Mother's Day every year is a day that I mourn with those who mourn. I tend to not rejoice on that day. And I'm learning to rejoice with those who rejoice on Mother's Day. But my heart breaks. And maybe I'm just a little too empathetic in life. But when I was in those cathedrals, and it wasn't just one, it was several, the darkness and despair was preeminent. And I thought, you know what? I go to churches in the US, and we do it every weekend. Almost every weekend, we're in a different church. And a lot of those are filled with despair too. And my heart breaks, because I think God has better things for us as a church and as his people. I think he wants to give us good things. I'm not talking prosperity. I'm not talking like I need a jet. I would like a car that drives. Like that would be good. And some days that's a miracle in my life. It's been a crazy couple of weeks since we got back. I'll tell you about that in another podcast. Stay tuned. The third thing that I noticed that I wanted to talk about was there was a place in Sevilla. So Madrid was where I saw a lot of people cleaning, and then we moved to Sevilla. And Sevilla, seriously, I think might have been, I wish we would have stayed there longer. My husband did, but I didn't stay there that long. I wish I would have spent more time in Sevilla. I loved the food in Sevilla. I loved the culture in Sevilla. Like, I liked it. It was kind of a smaller town. I like a little bit smaller, not like 100 people small, but like, you know, I think there's like a couple million. And I was like, this is amazing to me. I love this. But we went to this place that they built for the World's Fair back in the 19 somethings. I don't really know. I think like 1920 or something. So probably 100 years ago. They built this place for the World's Fair. And it was this huge structure that kind of looks like a cathedral, but it's really not. It's just a place to house like the World's Fair. And it had bridges that went over this like little water area that you could get rowboats and go on. And, you know, they had ducks and they had all this stuff. I mean, it was pretty incredible. And one of the things they had all the way around, it was like a semicircle. I'll actually maybe put up a picture on one of my socials so you can see this. There's like a semicircle and they had like these little spots. I'm saying like little, like, but they were, I don't know, 4 to 5 feet big, wide, like squares. And for every like area in Spain. So they had one for Madrid, they had one for Sevilla, they had one for Cordoba, they had one for like all the places had one of these little squares. And so my husband decided to do a video, and which is what he does. Like, if you don't follow him, he is really fun. Christ Connection, TikTok, all those places. He is just a hoot. And so he decided to do a video. So me not thinking things fully through, like, okay, this has become a pattern in my life. I need to maybe take some time and like think things through instead of just jumping forward. I just jump in and there we are. Like, this is what I do. Anyway, so I did not put sunscreen on. So we're in Spain. It is noon. I burn. So he's doing this video. So I find one of these little alcoves that was not super popular, because some of them were really popular and everybody's standing there and taking their picture with it. And there's like artwork that goes with that area. So like, I'm like, oh, this place grows a bunch of grapes. This place does almonds. This place does strawberries, you know, like all those kind of things. And so I find one to kind of sit in. And so I'm sitting there and I'm in the shade. And one thing that I really kind of wanted to do when we were in Spain that we didn't do is see flamenco dancers. Now, I did see some ladies our first day in Madrid that were dressed up full flamenco outfits, doing a photo shoot. That was pretty cool. But I didn't get to see them, like, you know, dance. Okay, I'm not a dancer, so that's just, I've actually probably never even been to a dance. Like, I'm just not cool like that. Anyway. So I'm there and I'm like, all of a sudden I hear the music, like the flamenco music. And I'm like, there's a flamenco dancer, because I knew that there were street performers everywhere, right? Everywhere you go, there's like street performers, and you put some money in the little bucket or hat or whatever. And I'm like, I cannot wait to find this flamenco dancer that's doing this on the street, and I'm going to give her some money. Like, I kind of pulled out some money and put it in my pocket that I could like give her. I was so excited. And then all of a sudden I heard the little, you know, I don't know what those things are. They make clicky sounds. And I'm like, those were, she's here. I cannot wait. And, you know, Kevin took like a half an hour, 45 minutes to do his video. And I'm sitting there like, I want to go see this lady. And I'm kind of like doing my own little dance and, you know, enjoying life in my little, you know, shaded area. And all of a sudden I'm like looking around and I see this guy clicking these little things. And I realize the flamenco dancer is not real. He is there. It is a guy selling fans, and he is not a flamenco dancer. No, he's not. And I just felt like a bait and switch had happened. I was so disappointed. I was so like, this is sad. I really wanted to see, I got to hear the music. Got to hear the clicking. So that was fun. But it hit me very hard that so often we're afraid that God is going to bait and switch us, right? We have this fear of God going, how can I trick them? What could I do to make their life weird? And I don't believe that's what God wants. I believe God wants good things for us. I believe he wants us to find joy in circumstances. I believe that God is there fighting for us, not against us. And I think all three of these things kind of all tied together in my brain. And maybe they don't tie together in your brain and you're like, this is the weirdest podcast ever. Kind of is, and that's okay. But how they tie together to me is that God calls us to sometimes find the good in life. It is okay for us to go, what am I grateful for today? I've had a horrible, rotten, no good day, but I'm still going to find something to be grateful for. I am still going to see God move in the midst of a really bad day or really bad circumstance. I'm going to find something that brings me joy and something that brings me gratitude even in the midst of that. I think that's something that makes a difference between someone that you want to be around and someone that you don't want to be around. And I encourage us to be people that they want to be around us. That we're not people that, and it's okay to mourn when you're mourning, and it's okay to go through things. It's okay to not always have everything together. That's not what I mean. I am not saying, hey, set everything to the side and be happy. I'm saying sometimes we have to find a little bit of joy in the midst of a despairing world. We need to find what brings, that lady that was scrubbing that door and that kickstand and polishing it. The joy she had on her face really struck me as that would be a job that would be hard for me. That would be a job that we'd kind of think, oh, that's a little bit below where I want to be. And she just found extreme joy in it. She was just bopping her head and having a good time. And I thought, that is someone that is finding joy in the midst of something that's maybe not so great. And God can do that for you. And I encourage you, if you're not doing it right now and you're walking through something very difficult, that maybe you take every night and write down 3 things that you're grateful for. You will be amazed that every day you can find something. Every day. Even when it is the worst day in the world, you can be like, I had socks without holes in them. Woot. I have written that down before. You can find something to be grateful for even in the midst of things. And when you're walking through something difficult, hand it over to God and say, God, I can't do this. This isn't for me to carry. This is just, we are not called to walk in despair and discouragement. We have been given the gift of Jesus to walk through life with us so we don't have to do it alone. Well, that's all I have for you this week. I hope that you enjoyed a little bit more about Spain. We really had a great time, and I appreciate you continuing to listen. If you would like, subscribe, comment, all those things really help. Wherever you're listening or watching this, that would be really helpful. You can go to Real Life with Jenny on Instagram, Facebook, and on YouTube. All of my info is there. You can go to our website. You can support this podcast by going to the comments below if you would like. But really, I just encourage you that it's okay to find joy in the midst of yucky stuff. God is not going to bait and switch you. He is not going to play the music and be a guy selling fans. He is authentic and real, and he wants to walk through life with you. You are not meant to do this alone. You all have a great week.